threat of disaster is never pleasant.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers podcast.
These safety measures are essential.
The only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment.
This will be your source of survival instructions and information. Every member of the family must be coached in the business of survival.
Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
Oh man, today we have a show for you. I'm flying solo here for this intro, but Cam will join me here soon for the interview. We have a fantastic guest today. We have Ben and Matt from The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. And my gosh, we were so excited when these guys said they'd come on and talk with us. So we're really excited to share this with you. But before we get to that, I got to tell you about Rhino Ready. Pre-kitted bug-out bags are usually ill-equipped one-stop shops that lack the attention to detail of a custom loadout. Not the case over at Rhino Ready, the truest purveyors of kick-ass survival packs and gear badassery. Their founder, Michael, spent years designing a modular bug-out bag that combined critical survival supplies with performance build quality. After launching on Kickstarter, it took many sleepless nights tinkering on weight distribution, prototype testing, and in-person manufacturer visits to bring their products to life. They sell an absolute beast of a pack called Companion, which you can get fully kitted, or you can just build the pack however you see fit with your own gear. So whether it's to supplement your existing setup or a gift for a friend or a loved one, you just can't go wrong. Now remember our code. Cam and Kobe are the best. Now go to rhinoready.com, that's R-I-N-O ready.com to take $100 off kitted companions. Now that's an insane deal. Plus you'll get 25% off everything else in the store and free shipping anywhere in the USA. So you guys go check them out. Go check out Rhino Ready, rhinoready.com. Use our code Cam and Kobe are the best. These things are fantastic. All right, guys. We are so freaking excited. Here is the stuff they don't want you to know. All right, Cameron. I do not think I've ever been this excited to speak to some fellas as I am right now with these boys. Like I was telling you earlier, and I was even telling them, like, I am fangirling right now. I'm feeling a little, my heart's fluttering. I'm stoked. I'm so excited. But who do we have on the podcast right now?
We have Matt and Ben from Stuff They Don't Want You to Know.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
I feel weird saying that. I'm like, we're just going to AI your voices in right now and make it sound like you are really part of this.
Thanks, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us. Really appreciate that, guys.
Yeah,
we have AI versions of us, by the way.
Oh, you do
already.
Really?
Do you?
That's kind of a hush-hush thing.
Oh my
gosh.
But
are we looking at them?
Yeah. we got I would say convinced to like try out a service and we were very careful about what we allowed for use on it, but it's AI versions that I think can make us speak fluently in any languages.
They're so much smarter than us, you know.
Gosh, dude.
I know
weird.
I know Spanish and English, but the machine learning versions of Matt and myself are polyglots.
Oh
it's
my
nuts.
God.
It's crazy.
The funny thing is, though, if you look at that, which is a larger trend in the world and will be continuing to be such in the mid-future, the funny thing is that the machine learning cannot quite grasp idioms and algorithms. So if you listen to AI generated stuff in a different language, like even if you listen to, let's say somebody primarily speaks Mandarin or German or something like that, and it gets translated into English in a quote unquote AI version, the idioms, the figures of speech are all over the place. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it also can't understand if there's humor or sarcasm. It'll do the intonation the way the sentence makes sense, right?
Yeah.
In context. So like in weird territory.
That's super weird.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I want to try that out.
I don't even know what an AI version of us would do. I don't even want to know.
Would make sense.
Oh yeah, it might make sense. That would be great, actually. I love that. So guys, again, thank you so much for coming on. Could you guys each take just a few seconds and introduce yourselves and let us know who you are? Let the listeners know who you are.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Matt Frederick. I'm a dork and a drummer and a guy that found his way into podcasting via video production through a website called How Stuff Works, where I started as an intern and then started making some videos with this guy, Ben, on the show. And now we make podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
And to add on to what Matt has said here, because we share a bit of an origin story. Here they call me Ben Bolin. In way back in the days of internet yore, my pal Matt and I were interns at a place called How Stuff Works, which you mentioned, Matt. I had come there from a different varied series of pursuits. And we started off in a video department where we would explain how things worked. This was a fun halcyon time. The guy who started the company, How Stuff Works, his real name, like on his government issued ID, is Marshall Brain. The only regret I have about Marshall Brain is that despite our urgings, he refused to pursue any form of PhD because he did not think it would be super cool for him to be Dr. Brain, even though objectively, that's amazing.
The best.
I mean,
So-
there's really no other choice there in his life, is there, to go for a PhD?
He is a brilliant and quite unique person. And it was kind of like, so when Matt and I started, again, we were interns. And so it's kind of like if you get hired on your first day at Wendy's, Dave Thomas comes up to you and says, "Hey, make me a cheeseburger."
Oh man, yeah. That's when you start sweating and getting a little nervous, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Wow. Now that is fantastic. So I just got to know, like, how did you guys, because in my mind, when I think about conspiracies, when I think about podcasting or anything, it always comes back to stuff they don't want you to know. That's like in my brain when I'm thinking about it. You're just legends. Like it feels like you've always been there. You've always been doing it, and you've always been doing it at this like high level. Right? We love to talk about conspiracies on the podcast, on our Mindless Banner episodes, but no, like we do it in a way where it's like, it's just kind of fun. We kind of make fun of everything. That's just what we do. But when I listen to you guys, you're just legends. And I'm like, how did that happen? How did you become the legends of all things conspiracy and weirdness in the podcasting space?
Well, with great respect, man, I have to disagree with the
you can disagree all you want, but it is what it is. Go ahead.
With great respect and appreciation, our perspective on it may be a little bit different. So,
sure.
Matt, perhaps we can double dragon this one. So, we were there at this place, How Stuff Works, before podcast had really extended outside of the early adopter space. To sound very corporate about it, you know, the beginnings of podcasts, just like the beginnings of bulletin board conversations on the internet, they were typically going to be very tech forward people who wanted to talk about technology and would, you know, even gotten to the early predecessors of meta casting, where, you know, there were a few podcasts about podcasts, but Matt and I always had a deep shared interest in questions that could not be asked, things like the Twilight Zone, the X-Files, you know, government cover-ups, allegations of strange and unusual things. And shortly after, our pals Josh and Chuck created a show called Stuff They Don't Want You to Know.
Stuff you should know.
Stuff you should know. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I do the same thing all the time.
Okay. All right. So the backstage story, this is a good one. So our boss, who is a very good friend of ours, always had the energy of Tom Cruise in the mid-'80s. And so one day he walks in. And again, we're still like, I think maybe we're both still interns, or we had just gotten real jobs.
At that point, I had just become a video editor. So I went from intern videographer to video editor. And then this new guy comes through, who's now our boss today again.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So this guy, he comes into a meeting one day, and picture Tom Cruise here. And he's like, bros, there's a thing called podcast. We're going to do this thing called podcast. We're going to do this thing called podcast because it's marketing. It's going to lead people to How Stuff Works articles. And we're going to do a couple of things that are really special. One, they're never going to be more than 5 minutes, because who would listen for that long? Second,
wow.
he's like, second, we're How Stuff Works. So the word stuff is going to be in every title. And even then we clocked it and we're like, okay, that makes sense. But how many short titles can have the word stuff in them? And this guy's so on point. He named instantly, maybe off the top of his head.
Yeah.
Matt, I don't know if he was freestyling. He named like 8. And we thought, okay, eventually then we got the opportunity to, because we were still doing so much video work with Matt, pre-producing, producing, editing, like a one-man army on this stuff.
Wow.
And me being lucky enough to write some of it. So we eventually got a chance to, he said, what kind of show would you guys like to make? And
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, he's selling himself short. He's written every single thing that has ever been a Stuff They Don't Want You to Know video,
Wow.
podcast, or whatever. Ben, come on. Ben is the way I think about the two of us, and of course there's also Noel Brown, who's a co-host on the podcast Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. But the two of us, when we started making videos, it was Ben does all this research, puts together everything in like an understandable pattern in a way, right? And then I synthesized it through, at first at least, through visuals, right? So how do you, what should I be seeing, or as I'm thinking about the things that Ben is saying? I just want to go back just a little bit, because How Stuff Works was almost an engineering-based how-to site.
Yeah.
Like breaking things apart like an air conditioner. Here are the constituent parts. This is what you need to know, and how these parts work together to form the thing we call an air conditioner. And what we tried to do, I think, at least the original aim, was to take that same approach with a mystery, a conspiracy. Break apart the constituent parts. Where do those parts come from? And then how do they fit together to form the way we think about a specific topic? And that's what we did for a long time for iTunes video. So this didn't go to YouTube at first. It didn't go because YouTube wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
It was starting out and becoming a thing. But we were making these things to, like, I think it was a 340. The
Oh my
tiniest little
gosh.
image that you would watch on like your iPod video, right?
Wow.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And we I guess our finishing point there is that we carry that DNA with us, that there are no questions that should not be asked, that the world is both understandable and worth understanding. A line I stole from our old Tom Cruise. And and so for several years prior to 2013, Matt and I were in the trenches on this stuff with Apple Video, then with YouTube, and examining stuff where it's like, yeah, everybody knows about JFK. It's by far the most well-known conspiracy theory in the American zeitgeist, and then we wanted to go deeper. Why do these things arrive? So really, we've been practicing critical thinking applied to all sorts of sometimes verboten subjects. And then in 2013, we started the audio podcast. We have a long history of, you work with people you like, right? You work with known entities. So we would consistently attempt to talk our cohort into participating with us on these things. And when we went audio, we eventually cajoled our audio producer at the time, Noel Brown, to join us on air. And I got to be honest, Matt, I know you don't love this observation, but Kobe, Cam, if I had not thought we would be fired within 2 weeks of creating Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, would have picked a shorter name. would have picked a shorter name.
Yeah, sure.
That name comes from our friend Jonathan Strickland, who makes a show called Tech Stuff. He also makes a bunch of other shows, but that was a water cooler / hanging out in the break room thing.
Yeah.
And he said stuff they don't want you to know. And we just went,
Yeah.
that's it.
Man, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Again, that's what I love about you guys is you guys will like entertain any crazy theory out there, right? But you always do your homework. You always come with all the facts on all either side,
Clean.
and you kind of let the listeners decide, like, hey, this is it. This is everything. And that's what I love about it. You know, that's why I've always loved about it. And you said 2013. It's been 10 years, the podcast.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Audio.
it has.
Wow.
I think October is going to be our anniversary.
Well,
We're Halloween people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect
you are.
timing.
Yeah.
Perfect
Congrats
anniversary.
on that. That's insane. 10 years doing the podcast. That's just really, really cool.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
So, this is called 5 questions. I'm on question 2 now. And this one, so a lot of these questions, a couple of these questions we ask everybody. And one of them is very conspiracy based, but we had to do some more conspiracy stuff because we have, again, the legends with us. So we're going to do some more. Question number 2, what is one conspiracy, cryptid or off the wall theory you wish was real and why?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Caveat as we get to it. I don't know about you, Matt, but I have always had a very difficult time in lists where you pick just one thing.
Yeah.
So I would say right now, this is somewhat ephemeral. It may change as the illusion of linear time continues. But I personally, and I'll defer to you on this too, Matt. Personally, I have been very taken with the concept of reality as simulation. We've been doing some explorations of that. And the main reason I'm continually fascinated by this is because whether one considers themselves an adherent to a specific religion or, a general spiritual person, as they describe themselves, or an atheist or, anything between on that spectrum, if the concept of reality as a simulation has any sand to it, then that has 2 strong implications that are fascinating. First, there would necessarily be multiple iterations of the simulation. So now we have a multiverse. And second, and for some people, perhaps most profound, there would necessarily be a creator. A simulation demands a god, or what people in the simulation would understand as a god. So that's what's been breaking my brain.
Oh,
For some
Yeah,
time. I don't know.
idea. I've thought that too.
You guys just released an episode not too recently on that, right?
Yeah. Guys, the episodes now, we make 4 new episodes a week.
Wow.
So at this
Holy
point,
crap.
we're just kind of like, they all kind of run together. It's one long conversation that we have, with each other.
What did we do?
I think that was recently, right?
What is time?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
Yeah.
a great
But
one.
yeah.
I'm excited about that one because we did an episode on the
We did.
simulation theory way back in the day. That one was so
It
much fun.
tickles your brain for sure. You're
Yeah,
just
it
like,
definitely
wait,
does.
well, and like you can think and see different things in life. You're like, I could see how that could be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we even mentioned that religion aspect of where, life is a test for some religions, and it's like, yeah, so God could be the creator in this sense of like making a simulation. So it's like, it does go along with that. It's super interesting.
See, I ascribe to, if it is real, it is not so much for the individual person. It is a life simulator. What does biological life based on carbon do when put in these, given these parameters? Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to silicon-based life or something.
Yeah. Let's
I'm
test
with
that
you.
one out.
Yeah.
What if we adjust the water, levels on the same planet by like 20%? What happens then?
What if it's
new
a
simulation.
different amino acid? What if we just change one variable? And then also what's interesting about that, and I don't want to offend anybody with very specific religious affiliations, but what's interesting about that is the idea that the this universe's God or understanding thereof becomes a lot less like some omnipotent force and a lot more like a really stressed out software developer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, dang it, there's a bug in the code.
Yeah, we got to fix
Start
that.
over.
I love to entertain this sometimes when I'm feeling a little stressed out, a little anxious about things going on in my life. And I'm like, you know what? This is probably a simulation anyways. I just got to let it go.
Yeah.
Right? Like I just use it
man.
as this nice little stress relief. From
It's
time
gonna
to
be a
time.
blue
Serenity prayer,
screen
that thing,
at
dude.
some point.
Yeah, blue screen of death
Blue
is going to
screen
happen.
of death is going to happen at
Yeah.
some point. So what does it all matter?
Well, yeah. And let's see, and then we can take that thinking. So like applying our human experience to a creator, right? Turning him into a stressed out software developer. But the one that I've kind of been hoping was true, which is kind of weird to hope this, and forgive me guys, but apply our thinking about God to humans a little bit when it comes to something like the Illuminati.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like a super powerful group of human beings that get together and see. They've got a plan. They see where we're headed. They know how to get there. In the end, whether we think it's bad or not, or if it's going to affect us negatively or not on the individual level, they've got a plan for what humanity is going to get up to. You know,
Yeah.
100, 200, 5,000 years from now. Like, I wish that was true.
That
But-
someone was at the wheel.
that
I
there
get
was
that.
an actual
Yeah.
force of humanity that could, see where
Guide
we're going.
it all and send. Yeah.
It's just nice
Right?
to know that somebody's got a plan somewhere, right?
Exactly.
What we found out on our show is that somebody does have a plan.
Yeah.
It's just they're all disparate and they're all competing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody wants, supremacy in some form or fashion in some, piece of land on the planet.
Yep.
And
True.
that's just
Yeah.
where we're at. And everybody's holding nukes now. Oh,
There is there is
Throw that
this
in there. You just
fantasy.
ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this fantasy or nightmare, depending upon your mileage may vary, of one hidden group controlling the world. And to Matt's point, it's a point we make on the show as well. Everything I've found shows that there are multiple groups of powerful people who feel like they should be running the world.
For sure.
And they're kind of irritated that the other folks don't agree with them.
Yeah.
Well, and they have massive power, right? Like
They do. They do.
We talk about a real thing like the Bilderberg Group, a real
Sure.
thing like I don't know, what is it? The Center for New American Security, like think
Trilateral
tanks. Yeah.
Commission, RAND, PNAC, Project
they
for New
do.
American Security.
They control a lot of things with both hands, and they got plenty of they're holding reins to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, it's not my, I guess, perception of what the Illuminati is or could be.
Right. Yeah. I really think Taylor Swift has her hands in everything.
For
That's
sure.
where I think most of the decisions are being made.
Yeah, there we
Taylor
go.
Swift,
Because
Beyonce,
Yeah.
like that
Yep,
group.
yep.
There's a
Yeah.
couple and Jay-Z. Yeah,
Yeah.
those three.
He's in there.
Top.
oh,
of
let's
the-
be honest. Jay-Z, like they let him into the room.
Yeah, that makes more
But
sense.
he's just hanging out,
Yeah.
And sometimes he raises a point,
Yeah.
and Beyonce's like,
I will let that go.
"Thank you."
He's
Thank
bringing
you.
coffee. That's what's happening
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking about this question. I was thinking about things I need to ask these guys. And then I'm like, well, what would I pick as a conspiracy here? So I
Yeah.
thought I would just tell you guys because this
Yeah.
is so interesting to me. You guys did an episode a while ago. Again, you probably don't know when it was, Matt, because they're all running together. But it was one of my favorite episodes. It was called Cryptids of Ohio.
Oh
Do
yeah,
you remember this one?
Yeah.
Now, I had so much damn fun listening to this one because actually Cam and I had done an episode forever ago as well. It was kind of about cryptids. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was one cryptid in there that just I can't get out of my head. Like I want it to be real so
the
bad.
toad?
And it's a freaking 4-foot frog.
yes.
sure.
Frogman.
The Loveland frog. I want it to be real so bad.
I know,
It's the
man.
most
Just hanging out
ridiculous.
underneath bridges, just
Yeah.
like squatting around a fire. Like,
Yeah. I like how the Loveland frog also in many of the descriptions seems like a down on his luck depression era hobo.
does, huh?
He's like always
He
under
does.
bridges.
Things
He
just
might
didn't
be-
work out for him in this.
Yeah, he might be smoking loose cigarettes. Who knows?
I feel like he's got the stick over his shoulder with his stuff hanging on the back
The
of
bindle,
it, you know?
yeah.
Whatever the hell that is. That's how I picture him, right?
It's like Jimmy Cricket, or whatever, like kind of.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Anyways, I had to bring that up.
The illustrations are awesome with that one too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like frog and then legs. Like it doesn't really have a lot to. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's well, what do I have to ask, Kobe Cam? What do you think? Do you think there is a amphibious humanoid out there?
Oh my gosh. Well, what did they say? Somebody said it was probably just an iguana with its tail cut off that somebody had found
Yeah,
or
I think
something
that's
like that, right? I'm leaning towards, that thing is out there, man. Like, again, I'm just doing it. I'm leaning towards it. Like, why not? You know?
It's a pretty strong story.
It is. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of different little articles and stuff on it. So I'm like, some people are super convinced. So,
well, they were convinced enough that somebody wrote a musical.
Yeah, I think there was.
What was it, like Hot Damn the Loveland Frog or something like that? What was it? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. Yeah, but they did. Yep.
There was we talked to two guys who created a festival about the Loveland Frog. Literally a physical festival where 500 people came or something to celebrate the frog. It's pretty great.
That sounds like a great
Sounds
weekend.
real enough to me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if there's a festival, then
It's got to be real.
I think that's the magic of this kind of stuff, right? Because until you prove to me, which is impossible, that the Loveland Frog doesn't exist, I can still have the fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just fun to imagine if I'm hanging out somewhere in Ohio, maybe the frog guy's
it's going to come across the road at some point, or
You could
go
get
check out all the bridges
around any corner. He could just show up, and make your day.
Well, it fills in a gap, I think, where a lot of our childhood wonder used to live. These kinds of mysteries and conspiracy theories and things. Something about the awe of life itself gets lost when responsibility kind of calcifies.
Yeah.
And so, if we can have these kinds of things, I don't know, I think it brings a little spice to life.
For sure.
Like that. Yes.
Yeah, it does. And it has for us, even just like learning and talking about all these things.
That's the thing. We were doing a podcast for a long time, and it was very strictly preparedness and prepping and all that kind of stuff. But Cam and I have always had interest in aliens and conspiracies and cryptids, and we're like, man, it's our podcast. Let's do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So that's why
we just want to talk about it, and we'll just
so we
record it.
started every other episode is now called Mindless Banter, where we just talk about these crazy things. And it has been like so much fun for us.
I don't want to derail us too far, guys, because Matt and I are often of the same mind. I very much want cryptids to be real, and now to steal a line from Fox News, now more than ever, it's the best time to find cryptids as humanity further encroaches on wildlife. That being said, I saw you bought a new car that's both your go car and your daily driver.
Man, you had to bring that up. My wife is so sick about hearing about my new Toyota Tacoma. She's completely sick of it,
What kind did you get?
I got the TRD off-road Toyota Tacoma.
There we go.
I am stoked beyond belief, and I keep trying to prod Cam into getting his own.
I'm working on it. My wife is working against it.
Yeah, we're gonna have dueling Tacomas. Yeah, we're gonna be bugging out into the wilderness. Yeah, and we're stoked about it.
Yeah,
man.
Dude, our buddy Alex just got one, and he took it from Atlanta all the way out to Los Angeles, and he's been driving around the West in it.
Oh wow,
he's loving it.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh, by the way, the auto workers strike today just happened.
Oh,
happened
really?
at midnight. Midnight, September 15th, as we record. It's a new implementation of strike tactics. They're calling it stand-up strikes.
Wow.
So it's, in a real way, it's asymmetrical. It's similar to asymmetrical warfare. So as we speak, in all the big three car companies are going to be getting hit by these unpredictable continuing strikes. I mean, the big three might send in the modern equivalent of Pinkertons to try to, compromise information and figure this out. But to your point, Matt, that is easily in a short window of time going to cost the American economy about $5 billion.
Yeah, and just so you know, that's Ford, General Motors, and what is it? Stellar. It's some weird name. They make like Chrysler and Fiat and a bunch of those other companies. Like one of those.
Yeah.
Stellaris, I think is what it's called. I can't remember. Sorry.
That sounds great.
Yeah. What a time.
That's it for sure.
What a time to be.
Not Toyota,
alive,
though.
guys.
Not Toyota.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I know. It's a weird.
It's
Lots of
Stellantis.
strikes.
Stellantis.
Okay.
Stellantis.
Used to be Chrysler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Stuff
Well,
you don't
they-
know.
Stuff they don't want you to know that, my man.
Well, they still want you to think they're Chrysler.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Just like you walk through a grocery store and we used this example earlier, you're in the cereal aisle and you're like, whoa, America, look at all these different kinds of cereal. They're owned by like two.
That's true.
companies.
That's true. Yep. Well, I wanted to ask you a question about, and we've had this happen to us where listeners have sent in some really strange comments, off the wall, email or message. What have you, I'm sure you guys with, talking about conspiracies and all that, you've probably received some really strange, maybe fan mail, or you just don't even know what you've gotten from somebody. But what's the weirdest message that you've received from someone that you guys can both remember?
I got one that I think you'll remember, Ben. This is, gosh, I want to say 2012, maybe 2011. This is when we're making videos. We got a YouTube channel. We're like getting up to, I think, around 200,000 subscribers at that point. And we got a manila folder in the mail. And I don't know how this
weird.
person got our address. We didn't put our address out like, here's who we are and this is what we're doing. Is a manila folder, and inside it had a map. There's one side was like a map of the U.S. The other side were like DC landmarks and like Mount Rushmore is on there, and a lot of it is hand drawn.
Yeah.
And then
Holy
overlaid
crap.
on top of that in red marker are symbols and like codes and stuff that I guess we were supposed to decipher, but they corresponded with the map and the other side. We tried to decipher it. I was never successful, Ben. I don't know if you had any luck, but
That's insane.
It was, I do remember that one. I also remember we got, one time we got what looked to be like a handmade book, almost like a children's book. And then, we got a lot of weird mail.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I still remember with fondness. I distinctly remember for a while we would get not physical mail, but emails from a incredibly diplomatic person somewhere in the Middle East who wanted us to get to the truth about a somewhat heretical and racist ideology that people of European descent were mad experiments, or experiments created by a mad scientist named Yaqub. This is like Nation of Islam thinking,
Okay.
which is indeed considered blasphemous or heretical by mainstream Sunni or Shia Islam. And this guy, wonderful writer, I'm assuming it's a dude, would just every few months for a while write to us and say, oh, I really enjoyed this video about this thing, and I hope this finds you well, a lot of flowery language, and then go, continuing on to our previous
Oh
correspondence.
my gosh.
I love the examination. And the thing that got me is by this point, Matt, I think by this point, I had managed dragging you on camera with me or doing fun stuff on camera. And I was thinking, this guy sees us on video. And so I don't know what's going on, but those are like those are only three examples of stuff we get, usually. And this is credit to our audience. Usually, even when people disagree with us, and we have explored some things that are very close to people, right? They're very sensitive about it. And for the vast majority of our time together on stuff they don't want you to know, the people who disagree or feel like they're making a clarification or something, they're talking to us the way that you would talk to your friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that doesn't always happen. So I think we're immensely fortunate in that regard, because we're also, we're not trying to be Moses on the Mount. We're not giving people commandments, to Matt's point. We're saying like, okay, here are the factual things that we can prove. The majority of the world accepts them. And then here are these other things. And we always end with, what do you think? Because you're the reason this show exists.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at our reviews on iTunes, it's generally 5 stars or 1 star, and that's kind of just how it goes, and that might be what you guys experience as well.
I think so.
I think that's what society is now. Either I love this thing and I
That's
identify
exactly
with this
what-
and I work it into who I am and my identity, or that is the antithesis of that which I hold to be me, and I hate it. There's no like, I can see a place for this podcast.
Yeah.
It's true.
Solid
It
4
isn't-
stars.
it
Yeah.
isn't, yeah.
That's
awesome.
I don't want to derail us too much, guys, but like that, what you're talking about there, I've been trying to find a way to put it. It's, we talk about our social media bubbles and how we're each individually in one, and then we're within a group that is also a bubble, right? And that's just kind of how it goes, depending on where you live and what you're into and how you grew up and all that stuff. I was trying to articulate this thing that, Ben, maybe you could finish if I start it. This idea that when we come into this world, we've got like a lens that we view the world through that's kind of built in, that's just our human abilities to comprehend like the wavelength spectrum of light and of sound and of all of that stuff, right? And then almost immediately upon entering with that lens, there's somebody who comes along, like our parents, that puts a filter on that lens. And then, and it's just like, what's good, what's bad, what's punished, what's rewarded. And you get to your teachers, you get to, whatever religion you get put into, whatever your region is like that you live in. And it's just kind of, we're just adding filters basically to that built-in lens as you go.
Attenuating.
That's it. Yeah. You're changing the lens, but you're also putting stuff in front of it. So everything that goes in the lens has to first get through that filter. I feel like a lot of the people we talk to are going through almost a personal journey to clean that lens, to get rid of some of those filters. And that doesn't mean to like throw away religion or the way your parents raised you or something. It's almost just like, it is what that word you used, Ben, attenuating, like sharpening focus. I feel like people are doing that right now in general.
I think you have to, I mean, the harsh reality of the world is that it does not need human civilization. Like if everybody on the planet disappeared right now, there would be some short-term catastrophe, primarily in cities, primarily where there is active maintenance of human infrastructure. You'd have a couple of things like the Hoover Dam or nuclear weapons carrying on their slow tick-tock. But, look no further than examples like the DMZ, or Chernobyl, and you'll see that Earth bounces back pretty quickly. Our concerns, our attenuations, our bubbles, our Dunbar's number tendency that is often weaponized against us, we have to ask at some point, why? What is the function of that? Because it is very easy to weaponize a large public if you are in a position of power and you want them to agree with your agenda. Everything we have found, Matt and I, and probably you guys too, in every part of the world you go to, whatever language you speak, no matter how unfamiliar a culture may be to you, what you find is that human beings in general are not jerks. They want the same stuff. They first off, they want to feel like they're successful. They want to have access to resources. They want to feel like they're doing a little better than average, and they want a better world for their kids, right? Or for their loved ones or whomever.
Right, yeah.
And so any attempt to dehumanize or vilify people, that, in my mind, ultimately, it may have short-term catastrophic consequences, but ultimately, in the long game, that tendency toward collaboration and understanding will win out. I know it sounds absolutist, but Matt, I think people are good and most people are just scared.
I agree with you. Sorry to just completely derail your show. Ben and I are just
keep
going to
going.
sit here and
No,
talk
it's
at each other.
super fascinating thought. Like,
But it's like, I feel like there's less of big, powerful, scary people trying to get us to think a certain way or do a certain thing. And it's more of those same people being very happy with the fact that the waters are so muddy, we don't know what's real and what's not anymore.
Oh yeah.
So they can get away with anything they want because we're literally like, wait, but did that actually happen? Or was that, no. And very soon it's going to be, was that a deep fake? No, that must have been, because it sounded like him. Oh, that was the AI version of his voice. And
What's happening in Iran? Never mind. Aliens might be real.
like, seriously.
Well, they are. Didn't you see in Mexico? They just pulled some out at the Congress,
Peruvian
man.
aliens.
Come on, those things
Those
are real.
arms, they're like, they don't, oh, surely they moved at some point.
I was telling Cam, it looked like the guy like
The
saw
bony lips,
Yeah.
everything, the structure just, man, it's
he saw a pinata on the side of the road, grabbed it as he was coming in, covered it in dirt, and said,
put a
"There
little
you go."
sugar on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it just looks
Yeah.
really interesting.
But see, what if that actually is an alien?
I know,
And
man.
that's just what they look like.
Yeah.
And this guy actually found one. There's no way you're going to prove to a majority of the planet that it's real.
Yeah.
No, you're right. But that's anyway. Yeah. Before we keep going down that rabbit hole, that is these are the kind of conversations that Matt and I had originally. You know, before the show was ever
That's
a thing.
awesome. Yeah.
And we still hang out. And I Matt, you made that point about a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and you said, we're having one long conversation. That that's what it feels like, and I imagine that's the same for you guys and Casual Preppers, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
It does make us insufferable sometimes at parties.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ben, they just did a Go Bag episode, by the way.
I know. I know.
20
That's like
tips.
one of the coolest things.
20 tips for your bug out bag, guys. Make sure you listen, because I don't want you guys to have subpar bug out bags. All right, we're friends now, so you can't be walking around with those bags that are just subpar. Okay,
Don't buy you know what's still so we're a family show. You know what's still so screwed up to me about this is that in the vast majority of cases, you can't buy a good pre-made one. You have to go back in and say okay, well, whomever designed this obviously was not thinking about actually using it.
Yeah.
It's a lot like newer cars. I feel, Matt, you and I were talking about this earlier. I do some car repairs, and it was on a 2017 Ford Escape. And it should have been a very easy operation, just changing the battery. But whomever engineered the car clearly never thought they would change the battery themselves. It's just ludicrous.
Yep.
Take out 7 components, then you can kind of release the thing that is holding your battery in with a bolt.
You remove the engine and then you take the battery out.
Remove the engine, walk widdershins around the vehicle during an eclipse. But that's what I really appreciate with Casual Preppers is that I think you guys are conveying information and insight without sounding condescending, without sounding exclusionary in any way, because people need this information before they need it.
Yeah,
You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
And that was kind of the whole impetus of this thing is Cam and I were really into preparedness and prepping. But when we went out there to try and find content, podcasts and stuff that were in this genre, it was very that way. It was usually like some ex-military guy, who was saying, well, if you don't have 10,000 rounds of 5.56, you'll never make it through, right? But then like on the other side, we say this so much, on the other side, there was like the homesteaders, and they were out there, crocheting their own underwear and churning their own butter. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a happy medium here somewhere, right? And so that was the whole thing. We're like, we want something where it's just like an everyday guy or gal can just be more prepared for all those things that are going to happen, power outages and,
Yeah.
you know, things like that. But it's super fun to also talk about the Yellowstone supervolcano.
Yeah.
So we're going to pull that stuff in because it's entertaining, right?
Right.
So,
We also wanted to feel like we were sitting at a campfire together, BSing, and people could listen to that, which they may or may not like it.
Yeah,
but
so, yeah, it's
it
like-
was more for us.
Success, guys.
Just to have
Success.
fun and like discuss.
And it's very
things
funny, like you said, it's either those 5-star reviews or the 1-star review. We've really experienced that because
It is so much that way.
we are outside of the mainstream when in prepping. We're in this niche, but we're a niche within a niche, right? And so we very much
Sure.
experienced that 5-star, 1-star. These guys are stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. Or I love these stupid accents they're doing. This thing is the greatest thing ever, right? So
yeah.
pretty funny.
That's a great point. Yeah. I think that's when you know that you are doing something substantive, something of value, because like obviously the average person, at least in the West, is not going to be in a situation where they can regularly amass thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition. They're not going to be in a situation where they can see their little MRE or something. There's a French one. There's RCR, RCIR. They're not going to be able to say, "Oh, a couple of months have passed.
Yeah.
Let me slot this out." Also, pro tip: if you're using military rations, they never really go bad because they never really start good.
Yeah, they're not great.
Yeah. So that's
true.
like that. I see what you're saying with that, and to Matt's point, I would interpret that as a sign of success, because self-sufficiency, even for a temporary window of time, is rapidly becoming a lost skill set.
I think so.
You hit the nail on the head there, 100%. And that's why we keep doing what we're doing. Well, mostly we keep doing it because it's fun as hell to do the podcast. But along the way, we hope to help a few people,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Exactly.
Hey, where are
hope.
you guys located, if you don't mind?
We are in Utah.
Could you give us latitude and longitude?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just have like
yeah. Hold on. Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen right here.
No, that is so cool. We're actually going out to Nevada.
Oh,
in
cool.
Just a little bit, just for a tiny snippet of time there. But we're in Atlanta, like near a big city in Georgia, and it's tough to imagine sufficiently prepping in an urban environment.
Oh yeah.
But I just moved north about 45 minutes from the city, and I'm it's not in the middle of nowhere. There's still a bunch of infrastructure and stuff going on out here and civilization, but I just discovered a thing called Tractor Supply Company. Holy cow, guys.
Oh, man. That's a rabbit hole there. Be careful. You're going to get lost.
Yeah. There goes the disposable income for a minute, right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
So Utah is also super, I think, super fascinating in terms of I have only been to the larger Salt Lake City area, and the speaking to your point, Matt, about infrastructure. What's fascinating there is the resource richness of that land. It also has a relatively unique history in the American pantheon of states.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's nuts because going to a part of the U.S. like that, and then returning to Atlanta. The fascinating thing is, if we understand the rules of geography and humanity, Atlanta should not exist because for places like Atlanta, for any metropolis for a very long time, you had one of three things. You either had a situation where you were around a large body of water, a navigable river or a coast. You had a tremendous amount of trade, or your city sprang up in the wake of a huge disaster or a huge plague. Those were like the three rules for human cities. Atlanta is interesting. I don't know if Atlanta is long-term sustainable though over the next several hundred years, because the answer that city had to navigable water, right, was the train lines, because the original name of the city was Terminus, just That's
What?
where the train lines.
It was
in.
Terminus?
Heard that
Yeah.
before.
Wow.
And then that's why Walking Dead has
Yeah, I was gonna say
Terminus
that
reference.
sounded
Yeah.
very familiar.
Yeah. And then that now has exists to some degree, but now it's replaced by airports. The local airport in Atlanta is still by volume number 1 or number 2 and busiest in the world. And so to me, it's funny to go to a place like Utah, or I should say fascinating, to go to a place like Utah and visit this place that does on average, people are going to be more self-sufficient if things go sideways.
Yeah.
And then go to Atlanta and say,
Yeah.
I hope the airport sticks around.
Yeah.
My
I
Amazon
could see
groceries aren't here yet. Ah, dang.
I know.
Great. Time to go
Yeah.
Mad Max on them.
Oh, man.
And that makes me think about, your point about Nevada, Matt, about, hey, you guys are closer to it than us. Is it Nevada or Nevada?
Well, I say Nevada,
I say Nevada.
but I'm very uncultured and I'm a
Utah
hillbilly.
has its own language.
Yeah.
We don't say T's and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
Like
yeah?
mountain.
It's like, mountains are mountains.
Yeah. They're mountains.
Mountains.
We kind of silent T.
Yep.
Yeah, we're from Atlanta, spelled ADLANNA.
Atlanta?
Yeah. Atlanta.
Yeah.
that's
Atlanta.
awesome.
Yep.
Well, guys, this is a couple of questions that we ask everybody that comes on the show, and this one obviously hits the nail on the head for you guys, and is almost a duplicate of our first question, but I'm gonna hit it anyways because I want more of this stuff. What conspiracy theory do you find the most interesting or entertaining? So maybe we could kind of go towards the entertaining side for you guys. What is the most fun for you guys to talk about or to consider when it comes to conspiracies?
I got
Fun.
it, Ben. You know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say. I bet you do. Well, give your guess of what I'm about to say.
Oh, I was just saying fun. Yeah, no, I'm tabula rasa over here. I don't know.
Okay. For me, 100% always will be until it happens. Blue Beam. Project Blue Beam.
Yes.
You guys familiar?
You think that was fun?
Yes. I think it's amazing. It's one of the most far out conspiracies I had ever heard when I first encountered it. And I think it's also maybe it's because I was a very religious kid growing up. Like I feel like the second coming of Christ or Muhammad coming back, like something where a religious figure returns, but it's actually just holographic technology from the U.S. government. Beautiful. I don't know.
Or
that
the
sparks my
Illuminati.
It's funny you went
Or
right to
the
that one.
Illuminati.
That's funny.
think
Didn't
that's
we just talk about that in a
It
recent
was
episode?
a couple episodes ago, but yeah.
Yeah, how fascinating is that? Oh my gosh. Maybe
That's a good one.
can you give us a quick 30-second synopsis of Project Bluebeam for
Yeah,
people
sure.
who don't know?
Oh, okay, well, this is my understanding from encountering it, doing a video, and then basically thinking about it all the time, but maybe not knowing the specifics because technology has evolved a lot since I first encountered it. But at the time, there was emerging technology where you could shoot light with certain lenses onto, basically, if you think about it like mist, like on or onto the humidity that's in the air that's becoming clouds as it's forming, to where you could create three-dimensional images of pretty high resolution, far, far, far away. Okay. For us, I think about in Atlanta, it's the Stone Mountain laser show or something, but except you're doing it in the clouds.
Yeah.
But it would be primarily the United States government or some other large, let's say like a NATO or some huge organization with a military mindset fools the populace of the planet that either a Christ-like figure, like choose your religion, choose the returning deity, that one has come back, or simultaneously, like Jesus comes back, Muhammad comes back. There's something happening in India where a God returns, and it all happens at the same time to make everybody believe that the world is ending, and then some action has to be taken, right? Some powerful group has to grab the reins globally, basically.
Common cause, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you can also, the crazy thing is now, because I've seen it kind of connected up to the UAP UFO thing, to where it could be an alien invasion that is
Yeah.
like a false
Yeah.
flag version of
Well,
that.
Watchmen is that is
100%.
all about that.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
And that's
Project
that,
Bluebeam.
Yeah, Project Bluebeam is. I don't think the author will say this, but Project Bluebeam clearly informs the end of Watchmen.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
Timeline wise, I think the Cold War bros, with their big 4:30 p.m. on a Friday energy, I think they got to Bluebeam.
But see, but there wasn't viable technology until I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, which is I don't want to get too deep.
Even
into
that, it wasn't at that scale unless we consider suppression of technology, which is a true thing.
Yeah.
We're fun at parties.
Oh, man, you guys.
I like that. That's a fun one. I always wanted, when we're talking about purely fun things.
Yes.
Conspiracy theories that I always wanted to be true are, we've run into so many. I have a hard time picking one, but I love the theories that have no real discernible motive. For instance, you guys run into this in Utah, I'm sure, because of the depth of archaeological evidence and richness there.
Oh yeah. Dinosaur land.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we live.
If dinosaurs are
We
real.
live in dinosaur
wow.
land.
We do live in
Bold
dinosaur land.
claim. But yeah, we have this. So there is this long running thing, and it's more like a through line for various cryptid and historical conspiracy theories. The idea that giants exist and the existence of giants is being actively covered up by the Smithsonian of all friggin' people, because they just, for some reason, they don't want you to know that there are giants. To me,
I love the
that's so
suppressed
fun.
ones. Like,
The havoc that would wreak if we knew.
just
You know what I mean?
Don't even
Dude.
go there.
right? What's happening? The Joint Chiefs of the United States are meeting up with the boffins who run the Smithsonian, and they're like, "Hey, let's get one thing straight." No one can be over 8 feet tall. We will hurt your family. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll cover it up. It's nuts because we look at it for many, many decades in the 1800s, well through the 1950s, before a couple of technological breakthroughs, newspapers would treat this as fact. And they would have reporters with very clearly made up names like A.E. Shenanigans or whatever, who's like, I found a lost civilization in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
One of the most widely explored, thoroughly explored parts of the United States. He'd be like, no one wants you to know because there are these giants and all this stuff. And one of the reasons it's fun is a while back, I can't remember how many years ago, Matt and I looked into a specific version of these giant legends, and we actually found a grain of truth to one. A group called the Siteka, which were supposed to be redheaded, cannibalistic giants. It turns out that story is based in truth.
Whoa.
These people weren't like 10 feet tall or anything, but they were a rival tribe by this lake, and they did get walled into a cave and smoked out, burned alive. And the cave was later found by people mining for guano.
Wow.
Yeah, listen to the
That's
episode.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
That one I'm gonna check out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What was the we just talked about not the conspiracy, but where they fooled people about the giant in New York or whatever. I can't remember.
The Cardiff giant. Was
Cardiff
that?
giant. Yeah. You heard-
Right.
where
Yeah.
they the guy took a whole year to he buried it, and he agreed with somebody to dig it up at some point and sent. It's
Was
just
that the
funny.
Cardiff? I can't remember the name of it.
I
Yeah,
think
that was
so.
so interesting.
So they just faked that there was a giant. It was just a prank that he had set up a year in advance, which I was like, man, they went through
brilliant.
huge.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, we need more of that.
Yeah,
We need more of that.
I know that never happens anymore.
I know.
Come
People
on.
are boring.
You got to
Long-term
be
pranks.
the change.
It's
Although,
just like it's like what the project for the new American Century did. Remember that? They said we needed a new Pearl Harbor. It's a long-term prank. You'll get it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's funny you mentioned that. I was rereading a book from a while ago. I don't know if you guys can see the title. It's Where to Invade Next.
Oh, Lord.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. This was printed, this was printed a while back, like '07 or something, and '06, '07.
You read that one?
And I'm just going to read to you the list of countries very
Story time.
quickly. Iran, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Venezuela, check. Syria, check. Sudan, check, because now there's South Sudan. Think about it. And of course, North Korea. North Korea starts on page 69. Nice.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So,
pretty-
so to the PNAC, or Project for New American Century concept, there are those long-term chess games. Unfortunately, they're not as fun as making a fake giant, which is so cool.
No.
The best thing ever.
yeah.
Like, what are we doing with our life?
I
We
don't
haven't
know.
done that.
Exactly.
Like, come
I
on,
fell
guys.
asleep trying to put on a pair of pants one time. People are out here changing the world. Do you guys think Bigfoot might be
Okay.
real or no?
I don't know if you guys know this, but we're actually pretty big in the squatching world.
We are.
Oh, yeah?
We actually, it's so funny. We released
You
a
squatch, bro?
We do. We're squatchers.
Yeah.
2018, we were squatchers of the year. So we really did back in, was it 2018? We made
think so.
a documentary we released on YouTube where we kind of looked into
What?
Bigfoot. We went out and
There's been sightings around
searched
here,
for
and so-
Bigfoot, and I think we have like a 750,000 views on it at this point. But most of
Wait, hold on. How do I watch it right now?
if you go to
Casual
YouTube,
Preppers?
Casual Preppers, the Bigfoot, and it should come up.
Okay.
But again, we do this in a way that we piss everybody off.
We did. We made some people mad.
You know what I mean? We're doing
We
things.
were a little lighthearted.
We
with
have
it.
too much fun when we're squatching, and that just ruins the vibe for most squatchers. So,
But to your question, yes, I do think there's a Bigfoot.
look, man, I grew up. My grandfather, and if you do watch that, you'll kind of see a little bit of this. My grandpa, he owned a lodge in the high Uintas for about 20 years, and that's where I grew up working every summer, up in the middle of nowhere, up like almost above the tree line. We were so high in elevation, but every summer he was telling these stories about Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and so I grew up with that legend. And so one day we decided, hey man, let's do a project. Let's go out and search for Bigfoot. Let's do a little research. Cam went to the library. He got some kids' books on
They're the best.
on Bigfoot, and we read those, and we went out and looked for Bigfoot. It was a good time.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
awesome.
We didn't find him, but maybe next time.
Spoiler
Don't
alert.
ruin this for me. Matt and I have to watch the documentary.
Oh,
first.
yeah.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
there are some. We didn't get him on camera, I guess I
Right?
should
Yeah,
say.
yeah. We didn't get him on camera.
So
Oh, because of his
Yeah.
PR folks. Or
Yeah,
his
there's-
agent.
he's
filter
always
was still
blurry.
on, stuff like that.
He's always blurry. It's tough, man. You know.
That's cool. I'm excited to watch this one.
Oh my gosh.
I just pulled it up too.
We were
Yeah,
just,
I've got an hour and 15 minutes
It was
left.
super
on mine.
fun to do.
yeah, we were just youngins, man.
Yeah.
So we knew not what we did, but it was a good time. Okay, I've got one more question, and this one is probably the most important one we ask everybody
It
that
really
comes
is.
on. So tell me, boys, what is your favorite movie of all time and why?
Deferring to Matt.
Well, okay. If you ask that question to old Matty Fred, pretty much any time in his life after 1999, it would have been The Matrix. And
Yes.
I would have gone on a big spiel about,
Yeah.
oh man, it changed my life and it made me think about the world differently. And it did. It's true.
Yes.
But that's not my favorite movie anymore, guys.
Oh my gosh.
What would favorite movie? Actually, I got kind of two, but I don't want to waste all the time. I'm going to go quick.
No, you do. No, we got all the time in the world, my man.
Well, first one is a little known movie that I don't think anybody's watched. I've seen it because I took a French film class when I was in college. It's titled He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not. And it is a fascinating movie. If you think about it in two parts, the first half is one character's perspective, and it takes you, into about 45 minutes of the movie. Then the movie goes back to the beginning, and it gives you the exact same events that occurred, but from a different character's perspective.
Nice.
And you get to see that just by having the camera in a different spot at the same time as all these events are unfolding, you get a completely 180 version of events, and you see things completely differently.
Genius. I like that.
Yeah, it's an older
check that
movie. really great. You should check it out. I think it's got I can't remember the name of the French title, but translated as He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not. Right now, all-time favorite movie is one that won an Academy Award, which is like, oh, really? You chose that one? But this movie, Arrival, that came out several years ago. This is about aliens land in the spaceships.
I rewatched it last week.
We just talked about it last
Rewatched it last week.
I think that's why, yeah.
Fantastic.
It was getting promoted, I think, on Netflix or one of these things. So it popped on all our radars again.
It
It's in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, that's when I noticed it too.
What a beautiful film, though. Oh my gosh. I watched that with my wife when it came out, and she was like sobbing watching that film. It is so well written. Obviously, a short story beforehand, adapted into a film, but just like the premise, the filmmaking, the writing, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we talked about on the podcast not long ago, Ben, this concept of language as a technology that, Ben, is something like you talk about a lot, but, and every technology is also a weapon, right?
Yes.
So like, but the ability of a language to literally change, going back to lenses, change the way you view the world, right? And how you interact with the world and what your possibilities of interaction are. I think that's really powerful. There's one other thing in there, which is a theme about if you could see all of the potential outcomes of an individual action or decision you make, would you still choose to take that action for like short-term gain if you know in the long term that you're causing harm or something, right? Or pain. I don't know. I don't know, it gets me in here, but it also like makes me think about global leaders, myself. It makes me think about all this stuff.
Oh my gosh. And just visually, like the cinematography is just amazing. Plus
it's super good.
The beginning of that film has like really great sort of apocalyptic feel, like the SHTF, it's coming, like the jets flying overhead. It's just so I just love that stuff. Obviously, we're super into that. So, oh yes. Well done.
Sound
great choice,
editing,
Matt.
everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Super good.
Okay, Ben.
Can you follow that up?
Yeah, good luck, buddy.
Oh yeah. Well, I have again. I have a difficult time picking a
It's
one
super
thing.
hard.
Yeah. So I would say if I could just laundry list some and the reasons. So I tend toward more psychological experimental and horrific things. We are approaching the most wonderful time of the year.
Oh my gosh,
Halloween,
yes, we are.
right? For conspiratorial stuff, Dark City is a great examination of someone uncovering a way to question reality. Primer is not for everyone, but it's probably one of the smartest time travel films out there.
Oh, I haven't seen that, and I'm love time travel stuff. Primer.
Primer. So Primer
okay.
is all about these two engineers who figure out they build an actual time travel device, but it's not a sexy time travel device. It's too realistic. It's kind of like in that movie Pi, where the guy starts to figure out pi with horrific results.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
Trills.
Primer is. Yeah. Very soothing soundtrack, that film. And then for nicer things, I would say the film adaptation of Cloud Atlas is by no means perfect. I think it is a cool psychological examination of the way people experience reality. I would highly recommend the book by David Mitchell instead. And then, of course, just for funsies, if you haven't seen it yet, Carnival of Souls.
Yeah.
What an absolute banger.
Classic. Oh my gosh, those are great.
It's got some really deep ones, yeah.
Primer, I'm checking that out because I love time travel
do
stuff.
too.
Super excited. I'm putting that one on my list.
It's very low budget. It is not.
That's all right.
Yeah. Matt, you remember Primer.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was gonna shout out what is it called? The Signal. Our buddy Dan Bush.
That's right. Yeah.
And several other directors. I think Bruckner and maybe
The Signal was
no wait.
the one with...
Can't
I
remember.
remember that one. I'm trying to think.
It's an old school thing from Atlanta, but really cool concept
Oh, cool.
about this weird signal that causes people to go insane.
That's, yeah. That's a fascinating
And
subject.
And Apocalypse Now. I almost feel like I'm embarrassing myself, but just like stem to stern.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that for sure. Man,
that's
anything,
awesome.
Cameron?
Yeah. No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm got some movies to watch.
This has been a joy with you guys. Seriously, like
It could go for 4 hours.
Like this has
plus,
been so much fun.
You guys,
and
the thought process is awesome.
And I just thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast, and I'm gonna remember this forever.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. We already know everyone listens to you guys' show, so thank you for the entertainment. Like it's awesome.
Thank you. Are you kidding us? Like I'm sure that Matt and I both have had questions for you. So if I could just do one,
bring it on.
For anybody who's tuning in and somehow miss these conversations, if you could only pick three, what are the essential things? And there's definitely more than three. If you could only pick three, what are the top three things you would want to have with you if you found yourself lost in the wild?
Lost in the wild, top three things.
A hatchet.
Oh man, okay, hatchet.
How big we talking?
A Bic lighter.
Like Juggalo hatchet or like lumberjack hatchet?
Lumberjack hatchet.
I would probably go with a Sawyer mini water filtration device. Obviously, you have to have shelter and you have to have water. Hopefully, you can get out of there before you really need food. So those were the things. Yeah, I think a Bic lighter, a Sawyer mini water filtration device, and some sort of a cutting tool, whether that's a hatchet or a survival knife.
Yeah,
I think you'd be all right.
Same three I would go with.
Dope.
Dang. Well, I don't know Sawyer filtration devices. The only ones that we ever looked into heavily are like the Life Straw ones and a couple others.
Right.
What is that one?
It's very similar to a Life Straw. We prefer it over a Life Straw because a Life Straw I think does like 1,000 gallons,
something like that.
A Sawyer Mini will filter 100,000 gallons.
It's insane.
With the one filter.
Small and it can be inline.
Same exact price as a Life Straw. So, like, you're getting more bang for your buck with one of those. And again, it's only like $20. Everybody should have several Sawyer minis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've got a couple
more
variants too, right?
Yeah. There's several different types. I like the Sawyer minis because they're really, really compact. They're really functional. They work really well.
They can even twist on top of like most
on a
regular
water
bottles.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got to have you guys on our show to talk about some of this.
Anytime, man.
Yeah,
we need to talk about all this because I had no idea this was a thing. Are they really that cheap, or am I?
Yeah, they're $20, man. $20.
Oh dang,
it's pretty crazy.
Okay.
Yeah,
totally worth it.
Money well spent. You know what I mean? The water is so important. You know, it's like after shelter. Obviously you have to have air, you have to have shelter, and you have to have water. So for $20, you can pretty much make sure that you're going to have water if you have any sort of water
you
source.
In a group.
As long as it's not radiated water, you can't drink that through that.
No heavy metals.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But most of the time, it's going to take out all of the other stuff. So
dang.
Mm-hmm.
We just saved your lives.
Yeah.
For a long time.
You're welcome.
That's funny too. Yeah, I appreciate that point too about irradiation because a lot of times people will pick up some kind of filtration solution or something, like boil in the can kind of thing. And they won't think about the stuff that cannot be filtered out. And they're not thinking about the importance of water. It was one of those things you learn in any survival class. What is it? What's the first thing you should do when you find yourself lost in the wild? Ask yourself how you screwed up such that you got in that situation and never repeat that. And then find water.
Water.
True.
Yeah, so true. Guys, can you tell everybody where can they find you? Where can they find all the stuff you're doing? Everybody who's listening.
We are Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. You can find us all over these internets so long as the cables don't get cut. We are on YouTube as Conspiracy Stuff. We're on Instagram as Conspiracy Stuff Show. We're on Twitter, all the hits. And if you don't sip those social meds, you can also call us directly on a telephonic device of your choosing.
Oh, I'll do it. All right. Yeah, you can call 1-833-STDWYTK. That is our phone system. Call it. It's just a voicemail. Don't be afraid.
Oh, beautiful. You guys, thank you again.
Seriously, yeah. Thanks a ton.
This is the most fun I think we've had podcasting in a long time. So thank you for coming on. And one last thing, stay survived.
We will.